I'm Pastor Steve, and I'd like to talk to you for just a few minutes about the human side of the story of Easter. What happened in the actual living history of the people who were there? Now, one of the things we have to remember to start with is that the New Testament did not come to be written down in the form we have it now until many years after the events described happened. And that's why you find various inconsistencies with respect to chronology, what happened first, what happened second, what happened third. And you find also a lot of confusion around proper names, because all the stuff that happened in the time of Jesus was all in Hebrew. It was a Jewish group of people struggling against the advent of Rome. And their names were Jewish. I'll give you an example. Eleazar. His name was transcribed into Greek, Lazarus. See, as we change languages, the names sound different. And that caused a variety of forms of confusion. But in understanding the history, I want to start with Luke 8, verse 2, which describes a group of women who followed Jesus and supported him out of their wealth. That group of women included Joanna, the wife of Chuza, who was the steward in the house of Herod. And these women, Mary Magdalene and others, supported the disciples with their wealth. We also find parallels in the Jewish Talmud, which records some of the history of this period. And the Talmud also speaks of these women, the most prominent among them being Helena of Adiabene, and she probably is intertwined with the story of these women who were supporting these great Essene rabbis in their proclamation of a return to the absolute spirit of the law, what they called the law of perfect freedom. That, by the way, is in the letter of James. Now, when Jesus came to Jerusalem, he knew he was going to die there. His trip into Jerusalem, which is celebrated on Palm Sunday, was a suicide mission. There was no way he would make it out of that city alive, and he knew that. And I believe that some of these other people who were his closest followers and those who were funding his ministry had some awareness of the fact that this was going to happen, what was getting ready to occur. So among those would be Joseph of Arimathea. You can find him in Luke 23, verse 50. And in Matthew 27, it mentions that he also is wealthy, a rich man. So these women had some financial assets. Joseph of Arimathea had some financial assets. He acquired a tomb. Worth noting, he had that cave all ready to go to receive the body of Jesus after the crucifixion. Just a note, there was this tomb. It was ready to go. He had it all set up. And he went with Nicodemus to claim the body of Jesus. And you find that in John 19:39. When Nicodemus and Joseph of Arimathea went to claim the body, Pilate is saying, well, he can't be dead. He hadn't been on the cross long enough to be dead. Very key passage there. Very worth observing. Now, how did Pilate figure out that he was dead? He called Longinus, who was a centurion. We have the name Longinus from an apocryphal text known as the Gospel of Nicodemus. In that text, which is really worth reading, we find the mention of Longinus the centurion, who stabbed him with a spear, or said he did, you see, because I believe that with all the wealth of these individuals who were really right there. The women were standing by the cross. They're testified to that in all four Gospels. And so with that, I believe there's a really good chance that Longinus was bribed. It's just an assumption on my part. You can't prove it, and I'm not saying it as fact. I'm just saying it as plausible theory that probably those centurions were bribed to get him down from the cross a little bit, just a hair early off the cross. That is what I consider to be a possibility. Now, before everybody gets all upset about this as Christian heresy, let me just point out that my agenda here is to help people understand that every time miraculous events have occurred, and I am not taking anything away from the miracle of the resurrection, but that miracle had all these attendant circumstances that helped it to be possible. There was Joseph of Arimathea with a load of spices. Spices in those days would be what drugs are today. A load of spices who went with Joseph of Arimathea. It says that would be Joseph of Arimathea and Nicodemus. They went in haste, really fast. When they got him off the cross, they rushed him off to that tomb. They got into that cave, and that's where I believe the man returned. I would also point out that we find in in the story of Thomas, we find Jesus having still the wounds of the crucifixion in his body. We find him telling Mary Magdalene, don't touch me, after he comes out of the tomb. Don't touch me, I have not yet ascended. In other words, he was still in a physical body, okay? And folks complain that what I'm doing is denying the miraculous. I'm not denying the miraculous at all. What I'm doing is saying, I don't know of a single great miracle that did not have human beings who were attendant upon it, taking action and doing stuff. I believe if we can take a more human approach to the scriptures, a more human approach that acknowledges our reality and our lived experience today, that this remarkable story of salvation can come into the hearts of people with more power and conviction in our current day. So I know there will be all kinds of disagreements. I accept that, and I'm not trying to change anything. I'm just trying to bring some insight into the story of Easter. Thank you so much for following me.